Okay, now I'm going to go over the ingredients you need for finishing your paper clay. First, you're going to need a bowl. Any size bowl is fine. A cereal bowl size is a good size for the amount that we're making. Then you're going to need some plastic wrap. You're going to need 3 teaspoons of salt. And then to make your clay sticky, you're going to either use a 1/4 cup of glue, or you could use 1 cup of flour. Either way should work. I did find that the flour almost works better. It might make your clay smell a little funny, but once it dries out, the smell will go away. In this video, I actually just used both of those things. I used a 1/4 cup of glue and 1 cup of flour. So that's probably what I would recommend. That being said, if you don't have glue, you can just skip that ingredient and just use flour, and that should work.
All right, so the next day when you come back to your newspaper, it should look about the same, but since it's been soaking overnight, it should be a little bit softer and it's going to be easier to tear up. So I'm just going to kind of take both hands and I'm just going to squeeze it and mush it up, tear it, and we just want to keep doing this until it gets as smooth as we can get it. Okay, I want to show you. I've been probably mushing this around for about 5 minutes now, and it's starting to break down more, littler pieces, but I'm just going to continue to try to even rip it into smaller pieces, squish it, just kind of taking handfuls and then kind of just ripping them apart. And just keep kind of going in there and squeezing it, ripping, and just repeating. So I'm going to do this for maybe about 5 more minutes, and then so that'll be about 10 minutes. That should be about the right amount of time to be doing this. So I've probably been mushing this around for about 10 minutes now, and it's getting pretty smooth. So I think this is where I can stop. And as I was doing this, if your hands get tired, you can take a break and then go back to it. Maybe have your siblings help and pass the bucket around, mush it for a few minutes, and then pass it to your sibling. Would be a really good way to do this. But yeah, it's looking pretty smooth. So this next step is we're going to just take one handful at a time. We're going to get another bucket or bowl, and you're going to take a handful at a time and just kind of squeeze out all the water. It might get a little messy, so make sure you're doing this maybe in your kitchen, on a counter, somewhere where it's okay to be a little bit messy. So you're going to squeeze the water out, and then you're going to put it into the other bucket. Okay, and then when I get to the bottom, this stuff is kind of hard to grab and squeeze. There's so much water down here. I think I'm just going to use a strainer. So I just got this pot and I put the strainer on top. And then I'm going to pour this slowly through the strainer so that hopefully we can get the water to come out. And we'll just have the newspaper. I'm just going to do a little bit at a time. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm just going to kind of push it down and get the water to come out. And then it's easier for me to pick all this newspaper up, and I can give it another squeeze, and then I can put it into my container. All right, and then that's it for that part. You're going to add about 3 teaspoons of salt, and you don't really need to measure too much. You can kind of eyeball it. It doesn't need to be precise, but about 3 teaspoons. I'm going to just measure just to make it simpler. So that's 1 teaspoon. 2 teaspoons, and that's about 3 teaspoons. So I've got 3 teaspoons, and then we're going to add about 1/4 of a cup of glue. So I have some glue here. I have this little 1/4 of a cup measuring cup. I'm just going to see, again, if you don't have the exact amount, it should still work. I'm going to see if I can get about 1/4 of a cup out of this bottle. I'm just going to set this glue bottle in this glass so that we can try to get some more out. And then I'm just going to pour the glue into the container. You're going to get a little messy, so you can just use your finger if you want to get all the glue out of the measuring cup. And then make sure you put your measuring cup in some water to soak so you can wash it out. There. Okay, now here is the fun part. This is where we are going to mix everything together. So I just take my hands and start mixing. Alright, so I'm going to add about 1 cup of flour. Again, you can just eyeball it. I think that's about the amount I need, about 1 cup. And I'm just going to put that in there. I'm going to put a little bit in at a time just to kind of mix it together. And when I feel like it's about the right consistency, feels kind of like clay, then I know I've added enough. If it starts to feel too dry, you can just add a little more water. I'll add a little more. So I think if you have made about the same amount of paper pulp as me, add about 1 cup. If you make like twice as much, maybe add up to 2 cups. This is actually feeling pretty good, and I've added about half of this. Do a little more. Now the flour is going to make it smell a little funny. And as your bowl dries out, it might smell a little bit. But once it's dry completely, that smell will go away. Put a little bit more in. I think I can just get that whole cup in. Yeah, that's feeling pretty good. So again, I did put glue in first. That was mainly because one of the websites said to use glue, and then the other website said to use flour. I ended up using both. I think you probably could do either or. I am finding that the flour is making it even stickier though, and it's making it more clay-like, so I do recommend trying the flour. And you can just use the flour probably without the glue if you don't have glue. I think having both in there is probably going to make it even better. This is all kind of an experiment that you guys are following along with me on. I did this project before, some years ago, and I actually made a bowl. I'll show you my bowl from that year. I made a really big one, actually, and then I painted it with white. In another video, I'll be showing you how to paint your bowl, and then maybe we'll paint some designs on it. This one I just painted white, but I had intended to paint some designs on top. So I think this is feeling pretty good. It feels mixed together. It sticks together. It feels almost like clay. So I think it's ready to go. We're ready to make our bowl.